Hi, welcome to lesson 37, percent of a number. Today we're going to apply proportions to solve practical problems that involve percents. Excellent. I love percents. Okay, let's talk about this. A percent is a special ratio in which the denominator is 100. Proportions can be used to represent percent problems as follows. So, what does that really mean? Let's look. It talks about where we're using percent to figure out what we're really even talking about. Percent of the people who like to eat chocolate ice cream, like me. The percent of people who believe that the Steelers are going to win the Super Bowl, some of you. All different kinds of reasons to use percents. Okay, so the first example is when we're talking about percent, when we're talking about part to a whole. All right, so if we have part to a whole, and then we're going to identify what that percent is out of 100. Or what if they tell us a percent and we need to plug it into a number, like what is 75% of the students in our class? So that's where we have just numbers. We're not talking about other types of units or anything, just straight out numbers. We can use is over of equals percent out of 100. Both of these you will solve the exact same way and are going to be very helpful. So again, part out of whole equals percent out of 100. That's the same thing as saying is over of equals percent out of 100. Both the same thing. Pause and copy this into your flip book under percent of a number. All right, now that you did that, let's try some problems. In our first example, this is 70% of what number is 21? When I was your age, when I was in school, these always tricked me up. And once I started putting it into the format, it really became much easier. I wish my teacher told me this. They never did. All right, so we're going to look at our part. Since we're just talking about numbers, I'm going to use is over of equals percent out of 100. The faster you get to remembering this part, the easier the rest of it becomes. As I've always said with proportions, identify what your units are. These are our units when we're talking about this. Okay, so here we go. We know the denominator will always be 100 over here. Just like when we were doing unit rates, the denominator was always 1. When we're talking about percent of a number, this second ratio's denominator will always be 100. So what parts did it tell us? Well, let's go look at the parts that they gave us. They said 70%. And they told us 21. But I see another important word, is, and I see the word of. What are we going to do with this? All right, well, let's plug in what we know. 70% is going to go under our percent problem because we looked at it over here. All right, is 21, and is, it says it's on top, so we're going to put 21 right there. And it says of what number? So of is down at the bottom, and we don't know what that number is, so I'm just going to put n. All right, well, when we're solving proportions, if you remember, the easiest way, the fastest way, is always to multiply your opposite numbers. All right, so on your calculator, you're going to multiply 21 times 100. I'm doing it on my calculator. You're going to get, so if we multiply 20, excuse me. Let's get rid of that. Excellent. I should have used a pen. If we're going to multiply 21 times 100, and it's equal to the opposite, which is 70 times n. So this is going to be 2100 or 2100 is equal to 70n, and we're going to divide by 70. Or when we did this before, we remember we were dividing by the leftover number, dividing by 70. All right, on your calculator, if you did that, what did n equal? So if we divide it by 70, I got that n is equal to 30. Is that what you got? Very good. Excellent. All right, I'd like for you to pause and copy this down under the other side of your flip book for your example. Excellent. Good. Okay, let's go on to our next example. Now, though you don't have to put these into your notebook, I really would encourage you to practice these on a separate piece of paper. But if you put them into your notebook, there's more for you to look at when you need to review or do your other work. So I would really highly recommend you doing this along with me. All right, let's look to see what we have here. It says 46 is what percent of 230? So our parts are 46 of 230. And here's that word is. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do. What are our parts? All right, the first thing we need to know is what is our formula? How are we going to set it up? That's right. Here we go. We're going to say is over of equals percent out of 100. All right, so what is our is over of? Well, for the is what number? We don't know, so that's going to be our n. And do we know what the of is? Yep, you're right. It's 230. So you should have said, let me get this out of the way, 46 is over 230. And we don't know the percent, so the percent is going to go right there. So our percent is n over 100 because 100 is always the denominator. So when you solve it, how are you going to solve it? That's right. Cross multiply. So multiply your opposites. Sometimes it goes from right to left, and sometimes it goes from left to right. You're just looking for your two opposite numbers. Excellent. You're going to do that, then you're going to divide by the number that's left over, wherever it is. Did you do that? Okay, and what did you get? Let's check our answer. N is 20%. Excellent. All right, 20%. All right, let's try our next one. What is 95% of 57? Let's look. What do we have? We have our percent. We know our percent. We know our of number. So how are we going to set this up? What is our proportion going to be? That's right. Is over of equals percent out of 100. All right, so do we know our is or our of? What parts do we know? Let's plug in what we know. We know that 57 goes with of. 57 goes with the of section. And we also know that 95 is our percent, right? So 95 is our percent. Our denominator will always be 100 because percent means percent is out of 100. Hopefully you remember that from last year. So percent is always out of 100. So now we're looking for it. So what are we going to do? That's right. Cross multiply. So are we going to multiply starting from the n? No, because we don't want to multiply where our variable is. So we're going to multiply the opposite way, this direction. Excellent. Go ahead and multiply those two numbers. You did that? Excellent. What are you going to do now? That's right, divide by 100. So let's see, on your calculator, you should have done that. And then n is equal to 54.15. Since we don't really know what these numbers are pertaining to, it's okay to leave it as a decimal number. We're not talking about a person. We're not talking about something that can't be part of something else. So it's okay to leave it in this format, 54.15. All right, let's try a word problem. In this example, let's read what it says. In a recent survey, 47% of teens said that they use the internet to download their music. I do this all the time. If there are 300 teens that were surveyed, how many teens from that survey use the internet to download their music? Well, let's identify what we know. We know there's 47% of the teens, and there are 300 teens in our survey. That's kind of our total number. All right. Well, we kind of, even though it only looks like we have two numbers, we actually have three of our numbers. Can anyone guess why? That's right. Because they gave us our percent number. Percent means out of 100. So we know that number, right? So we know it's going to be 47 out of 100. Floating boxes. All right. But in this case, today we're going to, with the word survey, we're going to set it up with our other proportion. So this time we're going to say part out of whole, because we're talking about part of a group, and percent out of 100. So who is the part? Well, that's what we're trying to find out. Part of our survey. That's the other part that we're trying to find out. How many teens from the survey would use this internet? Okay, so here we go. We don't know the part because that's our N. We do know the whole. That's the total number of kids who answered the survey. So it's going to be N out of 100. Go ahead and solve it. Pause the video and solve the problem, and then come back to check your answer. All right, you should have multiplied these two numbers. Then you should have divided by this number. And when you were done with your calculator, you should have gotten that there were 141 teens from the survey that would get, would say yes, they download their music. That makes sense. 47% is close to 50%, and 50% of 300 is 150 students or student teens. And since 47 is less than that, our number would be a little bit less than 150, 141. That works. All right, very good. For tonight's homework on the Your Turn page, here are your two problems. I'd like for you to do one number problem and one word problem. Good luck, and I will see you next time.